So, what are the pros and cons of living in a vehicle, and especially a tiny little car like my Citroen C1 just behind me here? Let's take a quick look. There's my little car. She's called Flea. She's a Citroen C1, as I said. Got a 7-foot bed in there, believe it or not. I'm only 5'6" or something like that. 5'7", 5'8". I don't know how tall I am, but yeah, I'm going to go through probably 5 pros and 5 cons of living in a tiny little car like this, and you can decide for yourselves whether it's feasible and whether you want to do it and why on earth you'd want to do it. Right, so I'm not actually going to do a car tour. I'm just going to show you. There's my mattress, taking the passenger seat out. There's the back, taking the back seat out, and there's a little unit there. Yeah, so you can certainly fit in one, but let's have a drive and discuss the pros and cons. So the first obvious pro, let's go and have a drive down into town. First obvious pro is cost. Vastly less expensive than either paying off a mortgage or renting a room in a shared house or a flat or a bedsit or a house even. So vastly cheaper than renting and vastly cheaper than paying off a mortgage. Obviously, the benefit of a mortgage is that you get a property if you manage to pay it all off. But there are other kind of cost-related benefits, not only a mortgage and lack of having to pay rent, and that's the bills are vastly less. So I still have to pay council tax because the vehicle has to be registered at a house, and it's registered at a family member's house where I'm deemed to be living by my local authority, so I have to pay a contribution towards the council tax there. But beyond that, because I don't actually live in the house, I don't pay any kind of land line rental or kind of other bills relating to water standing charges. Come on. It's a pretty stupid person there. Yeah, sort of wow, a whole blooming load of dogs there. Standing charges, things like for gas, water, electricity. So I use gas in this little car, but I just use little gas canisters, which cost me about £2 a week. I buy water bottles, which costs, I think it's something like 4 litres for £1.50, but there is a free public water tap in most towns and villages and in the countrysides that I go to. I can normally find a supply of water somehow. That didn't sound good, did it? Scraping the bottom of the car. So water's not a problem, gas is cheap. Electricity, I just charge things up using the lighter socket thing in the car, or because I write books. One of my little side hustles, I work in cafes and just buy coffee in cafes and plug into their power sources and use their Wi-Fi, which they don't mind. So no electricity costs there to speak of, apart from buying a cup of coffee every half hour or so. So that's costs, and obviously you need to run an engine, but a lot of people have a car as well as a house. So if you already own or if you have a house and you own a car, then you've already got the car costs. So no different there really. So my meal costs, I do cook in the car. So I have one main meal every evening, and I usually just do a stir fry on my gas, fry veggies and chicken, or a vegetarian, corn or something like that. Either a vegetarian or a meaty stir fry, which normally costs about £4.50 a meal, all told. That's for the oil, the extra virgin olive oil, the stir fry veggies and the chicken or corn. I could probably get it down cheaper than that. And then during the day, I don't nibble, I eat fruit basically. I don't eat any processed stuff. It's a very recent thing where I've tried to get a bit more healthy in terms of my diet. So that was the first benefit, greatly reduced costs. Now a second benefit is complete freedom, location independence. If you have a job, or if you're kind of self-employed, or if you have a job that's very flexible so you can work anywhere, then obviously living in a vehicle means you can literally pitch up anywhere during the day and work. If you're working in cafes and pubs, as I do, cafes during the day, pubs in the evenings, or I just work out on the beach. So location independence means I can live places like this. This is the south coast of the Isle of Wight, Ventnor in the Isle of Wight Undercliff. Lovely place. But I spend a lot of time in Cornwall, hence my channel name, Cornish Van Dweller, and in Dorset, and over the other ends of the country, or the east of the country, in Norwich and the Norfolk coast and Suffolk a little bit as well. So yeah, the point is location independence. If you have a source of income that enables you to work anywhere, which I do, thankfully. Another benefit, which could also be seen as a disbenefit, is decluttering, so minimalism. Because I have so little space, I don't have anything in storage. Well, I have a few books in a cupboard of a friend's house, but they're gradually being culled. Apart from that, everything I own is in here. All my computer gear, it's all locked away safely in here. Yeah, literally everything I own is in here, so I've minimised my clothes, minimised my bedding. Computer gear's minimal. Oh, that sounds bad, that engine. Just go into the car park here for a minute. So yeah, minimalism I think is a big benefit. Some people would see it as a disbenefit, that you don't have any space for anything. But I just find decluttering is incredibly good for the brain, good for the spirit. I don't like to be owned by stuff. You say you own stuff, but really you're owned by it, especially if you're having to pay off credit cards and that sort of nonsense, none of which I have. Now, benefit number 4 I think we're on, which you may challenge, but I'll try and justify it, is a lower ecological impact, which I do care about. Okay, I'm driving a petrol Citroen C1, but it's a low, it's not a gas guzzler, is it? So I think that's a benefit. I've a small ecological footprint. I haven't got loads and loads of stuff. I don't spend loads of money on stuff that's all manufactured and causes problems for the environment, apparently. So I see that as a benefit, kind of a smaller ecological footprint than if I had a house plus a vehicle. I think I am considering buying an electric vehicle, which lots of scepticism about the benefits of those relative to fossil fuel vehicles like the one I've got now, but I'm sold on the idea, partly just because it doesn't have an engine, and the engine's always the thing that goes wrong in my cars. So rather than buying a bigger van, which may be my next move, I'll probably buy a small electric car. They're not cheap, so you know, you don't have to take a hit on a electric car relative to a vehicle like this. This vehicle cost me 500 quid, this Citroen C1. An equivalent, I don't know, a Nissan Leaf or something, an equivalent electric car, an old electric car, isn't going to cost me less than about £3,000 or £4,000 for basically the same sort of vehicle, same mileage, same age, and the battery that's slightly degraded. Electric vehicle batteries don't really degrade that much at all. They go on forever. Well, not really forever, but they go on just as much as an internal combustion engine vehicle like this one. But yeah, I'd like not to have to deal with an engine, if at all possible. So yeah, ecological footprint is less, arguably. We are now down in Ventnor Bay, so I'm going to go for a nice cup of coffee. But I do love this flexibility. That's one of the big benefits. I can just park down here, go for a swim, then go grab a coffee and do some more writing, upload my YouTube videos. And I just love that flexibility, so that's one of the big benefits. Number 5, the 5th advantage of living in a tiny car like this is you don't really live in it, you live from it. And the the way in which that proves to be an advantage is the way you can form a sense of community, because you're always outside your vehicle, or I am anyway. I don't just sit in my car. If it was a bigger camper van, I probably would just be sat in the van working, writing my books. But as it is, because I can't really do that in the car, I have to go to local cafes where I sit down, buy a coffee and start writing or attempting to write. And that's where the sense of community comes in. You basically make loads of friends. The regulars, the locals that go into the same cafes, they get to know you, they're curious, they strike up conversations, and you end up having loads of friends, basically, as I have in Ventnor, because well, it's my hometown anyway, so I've been here for years and years. But because I am here a lot anyway, and I live in a car, and that means I'm a curiosity, people quite like it. I mean, if I was just an anonymous van dweller who came occasionally and didn't talk to anyone and just lived in his van, I probably wouldn't have that sense of community. But when you're living in a tiny car, or living from a tiny car, where you just sleep, or you're sitting there in the evenings watching videos and sleep, but other than that you're outside all the time, I found you really do build up a connection within your local community, which is unusual. You know, house dwellers, obviously they go home, watch TV in the evening, probably do household stuff at weekends. They come out quite a lot, but nowhere near as much as if you actually live in a tiny car, or live from a tiny car. Therefore you're, in a sense, forced to, he was going fast, forced to he was going way too fast up there. But yeah, so that's advantage number 5 of living in a little car. Sense of community, more integrated than if you lived in a bigger van and spent more time in the van than you otherwise would do when you're in a car. Now, disbenefits. I'm unprepared for this. I don't have a list. I've got to come up with 5 disbenefits. One is, if you like loads and loads of stuff, loads of creature comforts, then this is not the lifestyle for you. Don't, whatever you do, choose to live in a car. And I'm talking about people that are choosing to live in a car, by the way. If you're forced to live in a car, this is a brilliant option. You really can. If you've got no choice, then it's not a bad option, frankly. I love it. But anyway, yeah, not much room for stuff. So I've dramatically had to minimise my possessions, which apart from a book library, I had a massive library filling a whole room in the house that we used to live in. That all went. All those books were donated, believe it or not, to students, which is a good thing. At the University of Exeter, they were all natural history, non-fiction books. So I very happily donated. Well, not happily. It was pretty gutting at the time, but I'm happy now that they went to a good place, as in loads of students that could use them because they were just getting into nature. So, you know, thousands of pounds worth of books that they didn't have to spend money on. But yeah, if you really love your possessions, living in a tiny vehicle like this is going to be really difficult. I don't have storage. I didn't want to store the books. I just wanted to be clear of everything. Not for any emotional reason, not because I had a trauma, just because I frankly really like having minimal possessions. It really suits me down to the ground, oddly enough. I'm going to go down zigzag because I want to go and drop something off at the RSPCA. Actually that fits quite well with the theme, doesn't it? The first disadvantage is you've got to get rid of your gear, and I've got a few more bits I'm going to give to the RSPCA, the charity shop. But I love that. So anyway, to you that may be a disadvantage. You can't have loads and loads of stuff and possessions. What else? So I've said sense of community, but that works both ways. You can feel a little bit. What was that? I don't know what that was flying over. It's probably a collar dove. So you can feel slightly ostracised. I don't at all, but well, there are 1 or 2 people that resent my lifestyle, that don't like the fact that I live in a vehicle and think it's a bit weird, and think therefore I'm a bit weird, which I think they're a bit weird, frankly, that they care about me living in a vehicle. So I'm pretty robust. I don't care about them unless it comes to harassment. If so, then I'll get the solicitors involved. But anyway, Yeah, one disadvantage could be that some people just don't accept your lifestyle and you can feel a bit kind of got at, which I have done with one or two people in Ventnor, who shall remain anonymous unless it gets out of hand, in which case I will name them quite happily. I think I can do that. I'll ask solicitors first. I don't have money to use solicitors, but if I have to, I will. Yes, you do stand out like a sore thumb. It's not very stealthy, so yeah, you can feel a bit of pressure locally, which, like I said, I don't really. What's another disadvantage? I suppose hygiene and going to the bathroom and the toilets, which everyone asks about. So I just use public lavs. Like I said, I do pay council tax, my contribution towards council tax. So I don't feel in any way guilty using public toilets, which I do. And there is, believe it or not, a public shower somewhere in the Undercliff. I'm not going to say where because everyone will start using them. So that's good. But gym membership is the other way of keeping clean. And obviously I swim in the sea. Nowhere near as much as I ought to. But he's in the middle of the road. Yeah, so keeping clean really isn't a problem. Wet wipes, flanneling down in various loos and bathrooms in the Undercliff. All works well for me. So I was going to go to the RSPCA, but I just looked at the time. I'm going to have to get down into the bay before. So actually, they're going to be open, so, and there's a space there. Let's go to the space just there. So another disadvantage is vulnerability. You're unusually vulnerable. So if my car broke down now, all my possessions would be stranded on a street in Ventnor. I'd be okay because I'm part of the community here, so I'd have options. But you know, if I was driving down the A35 into Dorset or something and I broke down, I'd have to be towed to a garage presumably. And then what do? I'd have to find a local Airbnb or something and unload the vehicle into there. Not that there's much to unload. Another advantage of having very few possessions on you. So yeah, that is basically your house could become stranded in the middle of nowhere. And what on earth do you do then? I do have a tent as a precaution in this, packed away underneath the bed here. So I do have a contingency. I'm not a prepper, but I am prepared. So that's good. But yeah, you are a bit exposed and it could all go pear-shaped. And obviously if the car broke down and had to be scrapped, you have to have the funds available to immediately buy a new house effectively. So yeah, that vulnerability. Now another disadvantage is work and earning a living. Now it's not a problem for me because I've got a full-time job, but it can be a little bit tricky perception-wise and addresses and that kind of stuff. I have a relative's address that I use to register the vehicle, so I can use that to register with my employer, with the tax people and all that kind of stuff. But looks like my space is taken by a delivery truck, which is a bad move by the delivery driver. They're not going to be there for long. I can squeeze in the back behind it, thankfully. So yeah, another potential disadvantage of living in a very small car relates to relationships, as in romantic relationships. Obviously you can't have two people living from a tiny Citroen C1, or maybe you could. I've not actually tried yet, but my working theory is that you can't. which it works for me, to be honest. So any relationships that I have had, the other half has been in their own place. I've never actually dated a fellow van dweller, fellow van lifer, fellow car dweller before, but that's perfectly possible. But yeah, romantic nights in a tiny little Citroen C1 just ain't going to happen. Whereas romantic nights out very much are going to happen. So yeah, just forming long-term relationships when you live in a vehicle, either one of you or both of you live in a vehicle, can be tricky. If I lived in a bigger van, that's fine. There's must be hundreds, thousands of couples living in vans in the UK, which is where I am, obviously. So you know, living in vehicles is not a problem for relationship building, but if you actually want to live together, then you need a bigger van, not a tiny little Citroen C1 like I've got. So that is problem number 5, tricky to build relationships. So tell me in the comments section what you think. Do you think it would be possible to live in a small car for any length of time? What are the pros and cons? What have I missed? Would you do it? Would you consider it? Do you currently do it? I do it purely through choice. So although there are pros and cons, I think the advantages have outweighed the disadvantages, for me at least. And so I fully intend to carry on living in a vehicle at least. I probably will. I've been in the little car, the Citroen C1, for about a year and a half now. Might even be approaching 2 years. And I've really enjoyed it, to be honest. I like the low mileage, the low fuel mileage, the low cost of living, so I'm saving plenty of money. I like the flexibility of being able to move around. I like the minimalism. And frankly, the disadvantages I've listed pass me by. I don't care. I don't feel them as disadvantages personally, which is kind of why I've struggled to list 5 of them, to be honest. I may only have listed 4. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll think of another one. Do tell me in the comments section if you can think of any other disadvantages of living in a car. And don't say you're a dropout and you're a pain for society, because that's complete nonsense, and I'll just delete your comments. Any positive comments or constructive comments are always welcome. But now I'm going to go to Bestie's and get a cup of coffee and do some writing, which is what I normally do first thing in the morning. One of my little side hustles is writing books, links to which you can find in the description below. For now, let's just go and have a look at the harbour. Keeping fit is another really good benefit of living in a car, actually. I do an awful lot of walking and don't really do any running because I want to stay healthy. Don't want to knacker my joints. But I do an awful lot of walking, both shooting videos and writing books. I use voice to text on my tiny little iPhone mini, this little thing. I use the voice to text functionality that's within the operating system to write most of the text in my books that I'm writing. So I've got 10 books, no, I've got 9 books out. The 10th one is about to come out. All of those were written whilst I was living in a vehicle. First a little Berlingo van, and now my Citroen C1, a tiny, tiny vehicle. So I'm building a business, a book writing business, whilst living in a vehicle. Can't be bad, can it? And I'll leave you with that thought. Like I say, do subscribe to the channel, do provide any comments, any feedback, as long as they're positive, because they'll be deleted if they're overly negative. And I'll hopefully see you with the next video after this little book promotion at the end. So I hope you're enjoying this video about Ventnor and the Undercliff. If so, then don't forget there are 2 books that I've written. One, Bird Watching Around Ventnor, creatively named, and the second one is Wildlife Watching Around Ventnor. Just short books about the local area that are the subject of this video. Available on Amazon. I'll put a link below for this video, and you can also order it from the library, and it's available in all major bookshops, both of these little booklets.